Here is yet another reason why the US dollar is going to be the reserve currency forever. In the shadow banking, there is a concept which is called swap lines. This concept is something like in the medical procedure, it is what is called as a stent. So let us look at a lateral example. Assume that in our vicinity, there are American clinics. They have a stent which is designed in America, and you have doctors who are trained in America. These doctors have got 100% ratio of people who have visited them and come out healed. There are other clinics from other nations too. These doctors too have stents which are designed from their nation. But so far, no patient has even gone there and experimented. So now we are in a situation where, in case there's a crisis, the chances are people would think that the American hospitals and American clinics are better because they know for sure that they can get healed. So automatically, they will try and go only towards the American hospital for any particular situation, not necessarily only for the case of the stent. Where the US Federal Reserve interacts with various other central banks like the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, etc., so that during a time of a global market crash, the Federal Reserve will be able to send in lot of funds in the order of billions to these central banks and avert a calamity, pretty much like how a heart episode is averted by placing a stent. The entire process is geared towards healing the patient with minimal invasion. Stay tuned.
All right, let's get right into it. You know, we tend to think of the global economy as this solid, tangible thing. Factories, ships, all the products we buy. But underneath all of that, there's this hidden financial system, this network of arteries that keeps everything flowing. And just like a real artery, it can get clogged. And when it does, it can cause a sudden catastrophic failure, a financial heart attack.
So to really get what's going on, we have to solve a kind of a puzzle. I mean, it sounds completely insane, right? A defaulted student loan way over in America somehow causes people to lose their jobs at a car plant in Germany? How? Well, by the end of this, you're going to see exactly how these two seemingly random dots connect.
And our story doesn't start with a crisis. Nope, it starts with something completely normal, an everyday piece of business. The kind of transaction that happens, millions of times a day all over the world.
So here are our players. Picture this. A big German car company needs a bunch of really essential parts, microchips. So they place a $5 million order with a supplier in Taiwan. Super simple, totally straightforward global trade.
But almost immediately, we hit a snag. The chip maker, they have to pay their workers and for materials right now. But the contract they signed says they won't actually see a dime until 45 days after the chips are delivered. You factor in shipping and customs, and they could be waiting over 2 months for their money. That's a huge cash flow gap they just can't afford to have.
So how does this get solved every single day? Well, it's thanks to this vast, mostly invisible system of short-term lending that really acts as the global economy's money machine. Let's pull back the curtain and see exactly how it works.
So a local Taiwanese bank steps in to fix this whole mess. First, it pays the chip maker that $5 million immediately so they can get to work. But wait, where does a local bank in Taiwan just get $5 million US? Well, it borrows them from a bigger international bank, a Eurodollar bank. And to make the loan super safe, it uses US Treasury bonds as collateral. Then way down the road, once the German car maker pays its bill, all these little temporary loans get paid back. Everyone's happy.
Now, let's be clear, nobody's getting rich off one deal like this. The banks that provide the service, they're making tiny, totally predictable profits on these transactions. We're talking maybe $15,000 on a $5 million deal. This is not some high-risk Wall Street gamble. This is the essential low-margin plumbing of global commerce.
And the scale here, it's just mind-boggling. This is not some small niche market. We're talking about over $10 trillion of this kind of funding happening every single day. It is, and I mean this literally, the lifeblood of international trade.
So this system works perfectly, right up until the moment it doesn't. Now let's throw a wrench in the works, a shock that happens thousands of miles away and seems to have absolutely nothing to do with our cars and our chips.
So somewhere else out there in the financial universe, there's this bond. It's made up of a bunch of US student loans, and it was rated AAA, supposedly as safe as it gets. And because of that super safe rating, banks and funds all over the world were holding it as top-tier collateral.
But then, something nobody expected happens. Student loan defaults suddenly spike, and that AAA bonds rating just completely collapses. It's suddenly toxic.
So this frantic, system-wide hunt for dollars, that is the clog. That's the thing that blocks the financial artery. Trust just vanishes into thin air, and the flow of money, it freezes solid. So now let's connect the dots. Let's see exactly how this clog, started by a few bad bonds in the US, actually stops a perfectly good, totally unrelated business deal on the other side of the world.
Okay, so here's where the problem really spreads to innocent bystanders. You've got a bank, right? And it's just trying to finance a totally normal shipment of computer chips from Taiwan. The deal is solid, the collateral is top-notch. We're talking US treasuries, literally the safest thing you can own. But it doesn't matter, none of it, because the bank just can't get a rock-solid guarantee that it'll have the actual US dollars on hand to finalize the trade. And if it can't settle, the bank itself could fail. So its hands are tied. It really has no choice.
And so that's the message they have to deliver. Sorry, funding is just not available, or it's way too expensive. Right there, that's the moment. That's when this financial crisis leaps out of the spreadsheets and slams into the real world. A totally good trade, a deal that our economy needs to function, gets shut down.
This is the exact moment where a shock from one little bond in one little corner of the market sets off a massive system-wide firestorm of panic. So first, the official alarm bell goes off. Those same credit rating agencies that said this bond was rock solid, now they're publicly screaming that it's not safe anymore. That's the first domino to fall. And what happens next is immediate. Anyone who is lending money against this bond as collateral just panics. They don't trust it anymore. They don't want the bond. No way. They want their money back. And they want it in cold, hard US dollars right now.
You see, panic is contagious. It spreads like wildfire. It goes from that one bond is bad to, wait, maybe all similar collateral is bad? And that kicks off this frantic system-wide dash for actual US dollars. Everyone is trying to get out the same door at the same time. And the sheer scale of this is just staggering. We are not talking about small change here. Banks and funds are suddenly demanding hundreds of billions of dollars back immediately.
Okay, so here is the absolute crucial question. Why? Why does all this panic about a student loan bond in America bring our perfectly good, totally legitimate trade between Germany and Taiwan to a screeching halt? Well, it all comes down to this really fundamental concept in banking called settlement. Just think of it like the moment of truth. At the end of every single business day, all the payments have to become final, irreversible. And there is a super strict, no exceptions deadline. And what you need to understand about settlement is that it is totally binary. It's black and white. You either make your payment before the cutoff or you fail. There's no almost made it. There's no can I pay you back tomorrow. It's a simple pass-fail test for your entire bank. And just look at how fast things can fall apart if a bank fails that test. This is a death spiral that happens in minutes, not days. The second a bank misses just one payment, other lenders freak out. The desks that provide the funding they need every single day, they slam the windows shut. All their credit lines get frozen. A bank's reputation, its single most valuable asset, is just gone. In less than an hour, it's basically an outcast from the entire system. A liquidity crisis kills, and it kills fast. Okay, so let's get back to our bank, the one funding that chip trade. In the middle of all this panic, it starts getting really nervous that it might not be able to get the actual US dollars it needs to settle its own payments at the end of the day. So even though that chip trade is perfectly fine, perfectly healthy, the bank just can't risk lending out that $5 million because the risk of failing to settle is the risk of dying as an institution. And no sane bank is ever going to take that chance.
So this is it. This is the crisis point. The entire system is grinding to a halt, all because of a dollar shortage and a total collapse in confidence. You absolutely need an emergency intervention right now to stop a total meltdown. And that's when the US Federal Reserve steps in with this emergency tool called dollar swap lines. It's actually pretty straightforward how it works. The Fed basically opens up a direct pipeline of US dollars to other big trusted central banks, like the European Central Bank or the Bank of Japan. Then those central banks can pass those dollars along to their local commercial banks, and the logjam is broken. And this is really the perfect analogy for what's happening. Think of the global flow of dollars as the main artery of the world economy. The panic created a really dangerous clog in that artery.
The swap line is like a stent, that little tube a surgeon puts in to bypass a clog and get the blood flowing again. Except here, the blood is US dollars.
All right, so how does this emergency financial plumbing actually bring the real economy? We're talking factories, jobs, the stuff that matters to us, back from the brink. This right here shows you exactly why this should matter to you. I mean, without that stent, our chip trade fails. That German car factory has to slow down production. People start getting laid off. A financial panic turns into a real painful global recession. But with the stent, the trade goes through, the real economy can keep breathing, and a major crisis is avoided. And look, this isn't just a theory. This exact thing was absolutely crucial in stopping a global meltdown in both 2008 and again during the 2020 pandemic. And this is maybe the most important point of all. This is not a bailout. Let me repeat that. It's not a bailout. The investors who owned that garbage student loan bond, they still lose all their money, and they should. The Steden's only job is to make sure the panic from that one bad apple doesn't spread and kill all the healthy, innocent businesses that just got caught in the crossfire.
So the next time you're reading the news and you see something about the Fed opening up dollar swap lines, I want you to remember this. It's not about rewarding bad behavior. It's the emergency procedure. It's the financial stent that literally keeps the heart of the global economy beating when it's in the middle of a crisis.
Okay, let's talk about the US dollar. Right, we all know it's dominant, but the real reason why, well, that's one of the most surprising and honestly most important stories in the entire global economy. And I'm willing to bet it's not what you think it is. I mean, it's a question that pops up constantly, right? You hear about new trade deals, you see other economies rising, and yet the dollar's position just seems totally unshakable. So what gives? Well, the answer isn't what you might expect. It's not just about military power or how big the US economy is. It's about this hidden, absolutely critical function that the dollar performs that, frankly, no one else can. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the dollar's so-called iron grip. Then, we'll get into what happens when global trade just freezes. And we'll talk about the financial stent the US uses to fix it. From there, we'll unpack the foundation of trust that makes this whole thing work, explore why no one else can step up to the plate, and finally, we'll see why the dollar is, for all intents and purposes, an irreplaceable piece of global infrastructure. All right, Section 1, the dollar's iron grip. Let's dig into the central mystery here. Look, it's no secret that the US dollar is the undisputed king of global finance. It's used in, the vast majority of international transactions? But the real story here, the thing you have to understand, isn't just that it's popular. It's that it serves this crucial function that literally no other currency can. And the crazy part, you only really see this function in action when things get really, really bad. Which brings us right to our next point. What happens when global trade freezes? Think of it like a global financial heart attack. So picture this. The whole global financial system is like a giant circulatory system, right? And dollars are the blood. They're what carry value between countries, letting businesses buy, sell, ship goods all over the world. But in a crisis, everything changes. People panic. Everyone starts hoarding dollars. And suddenly, there just aren't enough to go around. The arteries of trade get completely clogged, and the entire system just seizes up. It is no exaggeration, a global financial heart attack. So what do you do when a patient is having a heart attack? It can't just wait around. You need a fast, powerful intervention. And this right here is where the US steps in and plays a role that literally no one else on the planet can. The tool they use is something called dollar swap lines. Now I know it sounds super technical, but the concept is actually pretty straightforward. Basically, the US central bank, the Federal Reserve, just opens a giant tap and floods trusted central banks around the world with US dollars. In return, the Fed just temporarily holds that other country's currency. It's a lifeline. It's a giant injection of liquidity right where it's needed most. So let's just walk through the play-by-play. Step 1, a crisis hits, and dollars just vanish from the market. Poof, gone. Step 2, the Fed flips a switch and activates these swap lines that are already set up. Step 3, billions, we're talking billions of dollars, instantly flow to central banks in places like Europe and Japan. They in turn lend those dollars to their own local banks. And just like that, step 4, global commerce can start flowing again. The arteries are unclogged. We're talking about a fix that can happen in a matter of hours. Okay, but wait a second. This brings up a huge question. Why does printing and sending out all this money create stability instead of just massive panic? Well, the secret sauce, as they say, is all about trust.
Yeah, this whole thing isn't just something they make up on the fly. This system works because it's built on decades of solid institutional credibility. You've got pre-authorized frameworks from the government, the Fed is seen as operationally independent, which is huge, there are standing agreements with trusted foreign banks already in place. But maybe most important of all, everyone's seen it work before. They did it in 2008, they did it again in 2020. There is a proven track record. The world knows that the US can put in this financial stent and, just as importantly, take it out when the crisis is over. And that's really what it all boils down to. Crucially, the world believes this promise. See, it's not just about having a machine that can print money. It's about making a promise to the entire world that you will step in and stabilize the system, and having the world actually believe you'll do it. That belief, that's the dollar's secret weapon. And this whole foundation of trust brings us to a pretty stark comparison, which is why nobody else can do this.
I mean, just look at the difference here. It's night and day. When some other nation tries to print a ton of money in a crisis, what happens? You get capital flight, you get panic about inflation, you get a currency collapse. It's a disaster. But when the USA prints dollars in a crisis, because of that foundation of trust we just talked about, the exact opposite happens. Global stability is restored. It's an incredible contrast. And why is that? It's because the dollar is already woven so deeply into the very fabric of the global economy. It wears so many different hats, right? It's the unit of global trade. It's the unit of global debt. It's the unit for global collateral. And, as we've just seen, it's the unit of global crisis resolution. It's everything.
So all of this leads us to the final reveal, the big takeaway here. The dollar isn't just a currency, it's an irreplaceable piece of global infrastructure. You know, this confidence isn't some theoretical thing you read about in a textbook. It's not built on speeches or promises. It is forged in the fire of actual crises. Time and time again, when the system freezes up, the US has stepped in to get it running again. At the end of the day, performance is the only thing that matters.
And that's why this is so important. Replacing the dollar, it's not a political choice. It's not like picking a different brand of soda. It's like trying to rip out and replace the entire plumbing, electrical, and foundation of the global economic system all at once. It's just an infrastructural impossibility.
And this quote really just says it all, doesn't it? The dollar is the only one that can stop the heart attack when the system freezes. It has the trust, it has the credibility, and it has the actual mechanism to stop the whole thing from collapsing.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. If the dollar's role really is an infrastructural fact and not a political choice, how does that change the way we think about the future of the global economy? It's a massive question, and the answer is going to shape everything for decades to come. Thanks for diving into this with me.